Hello, everyone, and welcome to the opening keynote session of Selling Forward 2020 Preparing for the Next Normal. Hi, I'm Andy Paul, host of the Sales Enablement Podcast, and today I'm joined by Howard Brown, founder and CEO of Ring DNA, and Craig Rosenberg, co founder and chief analyst of Topo Inc. Craig Rosenberg combines more than 20 years of sales and marketing experience with Topo's high growth data set to provide specific, actionable recommendations that drive predictable, scalable growth. He and his team support over 200 companies, ranging from the largest technology companies in the world to early stage startups. Howard Brown is the founder and CEO of Ring DNA, where he fosters an innovative, fast growing, and collaborative culture. A 3 time entrepreneur and former clinical psychologist, Howard's thought leadership on sales, entrepreneurship, and artificial intelligence has appeared on Bloomberg TV, Fox Business, Forbes, and Entrepreneur Magazine, and he is a frequent speaker at industry conferences such as Dreamforce and AWS reInvent. Howard has been listed as one of the 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs of 2019 by Goldman Sachs and a top CEO according to Comparably. Now, let's get into it. Craig, Howard, welcome to our opening keynote.
Thanks, Andy. Great to be here.
It is a pleasure to be here with both of you.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. Now, I was told I was supposed to ask about your haircut.
Yeah, so here's the thing that the haircut.
Now, when you look at, just face the camera head on, because there is a little bit of a mohawk going on.
The mohawk is actually the perfect topic starter for what we're going to talk about today, because think about it. I'm like close to 50 years old. If things were going normally, would I ever go into a mohawk except during this time, which like called for us to reinvent, allowed us for a restart to go do things we would never have done. And in this case, for me, it was to do a mohawk. So it's like, it's a personal example of some of the change that this crisis has inspired us to go do.
Craig's going fully cyberpunk on us.
Cyberpunk.
Yes. See, I mean, I'm definitely, there's a lot of things we could do. As I'm sure we're going to see a lot of comments in the comment area that will describe this new look probably in an unflattering way. So.
Well, no, I think the only thing is you just have to continue to sport the mohawk once we come out of lockdown.
That's true.
Okay. That's a commitment, I think I heard. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the changes sales has undergone, buying has undergone as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. So I'm going to start, Craig, with you as our guest. So what are some of the biggest sales challenges you're finding organizations are facing as a result of this COVID-19 crisis?
Yeah, so we're starting on the sales side, and I think, you know, as I always think about, I mean, this is all we do, right? All on this call, this is always all we think about here. And it's like, except for maybe a few, who isn't having challenges right now? And, you know, if we start from the top, which is, you know, if you look at the data, there's been a reforecast, right? The average, I saw from the Gartner CFO data was about a 20%, right? Negative 20% reforecast. And that number is pretty consistent with what we're seeing from sales leaders. So we start from the top that we had this shift. Then we had just, you know, the environment shift has been the obvious talk of the town. I think we're going to talk a lot about the need to go remote in days. But there's other things too. So, you know, I know we're going to talk about the buyer, but think about, you know, that when we think about the magnitude of what just happened, we got really used to our buyer for a while. I mean, you know, we got used to them. There's personas that have been on the shelf for 5 years.
We got complacent.
Yeah, it was so obvious. And we got in this thing, and now your target market changed. So big segments fall out. But more importantly, you know, what they perceive as value has changed. Their challenges, everything about who you sell to changed. So we have this really crazy confluence of events, crazy times, right? Where we had to move resources into a new area, and we had to enable quickly and continue to enable quickly. And that has been, this has been monumental, incredible. And I think as we keep talking, a great learning that will make us stronger as we go forward. But right now, that has been extraordinary. I mean, we did this research and we asked people, like, where did you, what are the big changes you make? And 99% said they revised messaging. That makes it a dumb question, right? They all did, and trying to disperse that out to all their I mean, it's just been incredible. If I think about just the baseline, we have sort of resources moving. So we have a completely new work environment combined with a new buying environment. And now we have to couple that with the ability to enable to deliver value against a buyer that's changed and continues to change. I think that has been one of the most amazing challenges we've seen.
We're going to come back to that idea of value. Howard, what's your take on what Craig was saying?
Which part? His mohawk or crazy?
I think we can move past the mohawk at this point. We'll come back to it, though.
Sounds good. I think a lot has changed, and a lot has allowed us to focus on what matters. I think we're moving back to values in a lot of ways. I've seen salespeople have to focus like they've never focused before. There's a sensitivity out there that's the underpinnings of most outreach. I think people at the beginning of the crisis didn't know if it was appropriate to reach out to people. Were they going to be viewed as insensitive or not caring?
Yeah.
I think after the shock of that wore off, it really came back to how can you be a helper? How can you reach out to people and help them through their buying decision? How can you provide some value to whomever you're talking to? And I think in a lot of ways, organizations are focusing on their current customer base like they haven't done in a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's harder to find a net new customer right now because people are sort of, they're entrenched, they're dug in, they're not making many changes. And I think most forward-looking sales organizations are looking at how they can better manage their accounts, how they can provide value to their current customer base. I think it goes back to building great products and building partnerships and relationships. And I think in a lot of ways, we've fallen out of that in our sales motion, and it's forced everybody to take a look at themselves. You have people who have never sold inside before, and now they have nothing else but inside to be selling. So how do they reach out to people? How do they make an introduction? How do they add value immediately? Because we're all inundated with all the information and all the change that's happening
right
on a momentary basis. And so I think going back to value selling is probably the most significant change I'm seeing right now.
But so let's follow up on that. So Craig, you said there's a different definition of value now. So tell us what you meant by that.
Well, if you don't mind, I will absolutely do this with a lead in. What Howard said is dead on. And I've known Howard for a long time, maybe not on this webinar, but I like to disagree with him. I don't on that one. That was perfectly said. As we talk about this, I really felt on helping the customer, and Andy's got like millions of podcasts and content on this, but it was only our 20% in the sales org. We talked about it a lot, right? But we were in the midst in the last 8 years of an insane bull run that you could get away with a lot of stuff. And you're right. This flip back is what matters, right? The things that matter. We are back. It's like back to the building of the relationship from a company level to a salesperson level. And that is well said. And I think extending it into the customer side is a really important part of that story.
Right.
So
now, before you get to that though, I want to follow, because you were referring back to Howard, is you I don't know if you misspoke. We said values, not just value. And I think that's a critical point. And you meant to say values? I just want you to expand on that a little bit.
I as I have like the Men in Black, the memory wiper. I don't even remember what I said a second ago, but I was thinking I was talking about value.
Okay, no, well, Howard mentioned the word values. That's why I was wanting to get back to that, because I think that is, when you're talking about helping, that's really what we're talking about. When we change and reorient our mindset to trying to help, that's a value, not value in and of itself.
Yeah, because Howard, I'll let you talk, but if you take what Howard said was like, it's not just value-based selling, right? It's values-based selling.
Right.
You are doing the right thing. And the right thing is winning here. And actually that's it, right, guys? Because the wrong thing is like out, and the only thing you got is to do the right thing. So we got to coin this and go with this, Howard, values-based selling.
Well, it is a core value at Ring DNA, and I think that's what Andy's alluding to. One of our core values is bring value to every interaction, and for us, it's critically important to be helping. And long story short, if you're helping others, you're winning yourself. So whether it's in interpersonal relationships or in a sales process or that of an account manager or success manager, if you're providing value and helping others, chances are you're going to feel better and you're going to succeed. Nothing makes me personally feel better than helping others grow. I know it through my own change and transformation as a professional, as a leader. I'm constantly striving to do better. I'm constantly striving to make those around me better. And if we can impart that in every single individual within our organization, and we give them the tools to help their prospects and their customers succeed, then it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, perfect. Agreed. So,
Okay.
well, did you want me to? Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think I like how we've sort of set the table with how you sell and how you handle customers. They're both the same thing, but I don't know that everyone blends it. And we talk about value. I think, the key to remember is we need to be able to help, we need to really understand, we need to enter conversations with an understanding of what's happening in the market from both a marketplace perspective, an account level perspective, and a contact level perspective. So for example, what's happening to, the oil and gas sounds really drastic, but there's a lot that's going on there. But not just that, like, how can we translate the big things that they need to go do in order to not just, to make it through the next year, next 2 years from a strategic level? What does that director of network infrastructure need to be thinking about to go be successful? We have to sort of bring that knowledge base back into the org. And that's fluid, by the way. You guys know this. Like, we're learning every day on the front lines and feeding that stuff back into the organization. We're trying to reestablish what we understand about the buyer, because without that, you can't. I mean, you could be valuable if people would let you in the door and just be like, hey, I'd love to come in and come talk to you. That's, as you know, we need to offer value to have the opportunity to even have that conversation with them. And so that's really, that's step one. It's like, you got to rip everything up and go figure out what are the key challenges that are happening in your market. And that's we've got to translate that from accounts to personas and what matters. And like, if we do that as the baseline, that's what we're supposed to do. But there's a second part on the value, which is, how do we sort of rethink the way we engage with customers going forward? So the biggest thing we've seen has been the first sales call. When the power was in the vendor's hands, that first sales call was a demo or a discovery to see if we'd let them into the demo. But now, if you reach out, you just say, hey, you want to go take a demo, you have to be really lucky. Instead, what can we offer what conversation does your buyer want to have? That's the key. And that's been really successful for a number of folks to go talk about what their peers are doing in this climate, to go have that conversation first or second, whatever it is. But to start the conversation, we have to figure out what would be 100% valuable to that buyer. Everyone said, what's working in prospect? There's one thing, right? Which is to reach out and to find out what it is that your industry that you're going after, your market, et cetera, what do they care about and what do they want to go talk about? That's a very specific thing that you can go do. We've seen game change on that for a number of our customers, where it's like the demo, we're pushing that thing back. Product talk, we're pushing that thing back. We're in the, construction software business. Let's go talk to them about what is happening globally with construction, what we are seeing from other construction companies just like them and what they're going through. That's the conversation they want to have. And by the way, that's the conversation their executives want to have. So that's a way to take that new learning of value to the market and turning that into something really specific that could be really successful for you. And that allows you to have that conversation about whether you can be a business partner. Because at this time they want, as Howard said, like that's part of your core values, right? You guys are partners to them as they go run change management. And that software is part of the story, but the humans and that partnerships, and to get there, you have got to go and deliver that kind of value to them, that understanding of their market and understanding of things that are happening, and give them ideas. And to me, that's been one of the big things we've been sort of talking about that, and on our side, on the Topo side, for a number of years. But now people are doing it because they have to, and it's good. Because going forward, if we can deliver a conversation to the buyer that's 100% valuable to them, or 99 and we get 1%, which is another phone call afterwards, we're doing the right thing.
Well, so part of the challenge then becomes, how do we enable people to have those conversations?
Yep.
Right? If this is what the buyers want, this is part of the buyer's behavior change, what are the steps we need to take to enable sellers to have these thoughtful, knowledge-based interactions with their buyers?
And we have in 1 day or less, Howard. We also got to train them in 1 day or less. Anyway,
training, education, coaching, learn from others within your organization. I think a lot of times people think they could just turn salespeople loose and they're somehow going to engage in thoughtful conversations that involve empathy and business acumen. That's not something you learn overnight. So what are we doing as organizations to enable each individual up and down the organization to be thoughtful, to ask engaging, open-ended questions? How do we coach them when things go wrong? Because every conversation you start isn't going to go well just because you're interested in what's going on in their industry. A lot of times they'll say, you know what, I don't have time for you. So how do you teach people to have conversations? How do you teach people to work through those objections? How do you learn from your mentors and peers? And I think that's really important. And there's a lot of talk about empathic selling and open-ended questions, and there's so much fluff out there, but how do you really train people to do it? How do you invest in them? And there's a lot of folks out there who have incredible knowledge. It's just a matter of tapping them. So people who have sold value, people who have account management in their background, people who have worked on accounts for a long period of time and have developed relationships, that's not transactional. That's relationship based. And those are the people we need to learn from.
Yeah. So I just mentioned a couple of things, Andy, because I think that's a good question. I'll just, first thing I want to mention is, so one of my analysts, Dan Gottlieb, who you guys know, he's came up with this idea called the newsroom. Because right now we are learning so much, and I don't know that we give sales reps enough credit for what they're throwing themselves out. They are learning on the front lines every day. Can we take that information back? Can we take all the things that we're seeing happening on the front line and continue to feed that back into the organization in some collaborative way that, you know, allows us to continue to learn together? Because right now we have to learn fast. Okay, that's one thing. So you know, as we take what Howard said and then we build on it, remember the game changes every hour. I mean, it's crazy. I was looking at a bunch of charts coming into this, and they kind of look like this, right? Of people's sentiment by week. It's going up, it's going down. We don't know which way is up. So we're learning, and people are changing, and we're taking that stuff in a, frankly, and it gets really interesting when you start to take real frontline information and bring that into the organization and learn from each other. So there's a look it is a training thing. Like, for example, what if the first thing we trained people on was not the pitch, but was on the market? We have to sort of unlearn how we do things in order to be successful here. We put so much emphasis. Look, I love the pitch, you guys. Just don't get me wrong on that. But we put everything on that.
Sure.
We put everything on that, and we don't put everything on, learning about the market and, frankly, testing them on what they know about I don't, make them do a market presentation. That stuff they will thank you in 6 months when they're closing their biggest deals because you helped accelerate that. And so that's a training thing. I also think you should make it a play in your sales part. You should say, we're going to do the value added, whatever you want to call it, and train against that. I think, I've seen clients just put 3 high value slides in the front of the deck. We've seen the Zuora deck that's been out there for a while. That's a market centric deck. You can put structure around it that will allow them to learn, in a more efficient way. I mean, it's one thing to go, hey, go learn about the market. It's another thing to say, look, here, I'm going to put some structure around it. You're going to go in and go talk about this. What can we learn about that? And as Howard said, easy for me to say, because the first thing the buyer's going to say is take you on another journey. We got to get used to that and get ready for that. Mm-hmm. But it is just a different way of enabling. And we've seen it successfully. It's just the word you ask is you actually have to enable on that. It can't just be a thing. It seems like to me, and this would be for both of you guys, that being helpful to the buyer and valuable, all these things that are core to what we're talking about today, they kind of been around. They've sort of been LinkedIn suggestions, like posted on LinkedIn, right? And that's why you're asking, and I know exactly why you're asking, because it's not enough to go tell everyone to do something on LinkedIn and do this kind of, it's actually hard, and you got to enable them. That's why Howard's like, it's training, it's coaching, and coaching again, and then you're coaching again, and you got to go talk to these guys.
But that's really the point. I think is we can't emphasize enough the importance of coaching, right? Because think about, how do people really learn how to sell? Typically watching someone else do it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, at least it was for me as coach, as mentor, as peers. I mean, that's how you learn. I mean, the training's great, gives you a certain baseline, so you need coaches who can model the behaviors that you need. So the training, the way that, for me, the key to enable the sellers is we have to enable managers to be able to coach in an effective fashion.
Yeah, sure. Spot on. And I think that, like you talk about, Andy, how do we learn how to sell? By watching others. How do we learn how to coach? People think that they can magically become coaches, or sales people who were successful at selling are automatically assumed to be great coaches or trainers. It's not the case. To your point, you really need to enable them with the right tools, right? So for us, we study conversations, we study marketing, we study sales pitch, we study cadence and sequence, we study every single aspect of what people do, including how people coach and train. Only then, by the study of it, can you perfect the art with the science. But it has to be studied and it has to be reviewed. And it doesn't have to take a long time. Nothing is as successful as watching yourself. One thing that I've always found valuable is watching myself on film. When I was a therapist, I had a session that they recorded. And it was an incredibly useful tool for me, because I realized that during high stress moments when important material was being discussed, I would tap my knee or I would shake my foot. I had no idea that I was putting out that kind of energy. And then I watched it. And just watching yourself in action and having people provide you feedback, hugely helpful.
Yeah.
Can we play poker? Now I know your tells.
Yeah, I mean, you don't let him film himself. He'll learn them all. But yeah, I mean, if we sort of take the next leap, which is, what is that sort of next level? It's incredible. Coaching, we kind of knew it wasn't there, and now we can enable it, right? We can actually, the frontline managers, we just promoted people. We didn't give them any toolkit on how to make people better. And they want, generally speaking, as you guys know, when you talk to, they want to make people better. And so when you talk about what you're talking about here, guys, like, that is a breakthrough. Mm-hmm. And, I believe what you were just saying, I was laughing because I'm the worst listener of all time. Coaching was everything to me. What the coach said to me in real time, and I would have to do and then get taught, I would learn it. If I was sitting there trying to take notes on it, really tough. But boy, if you put me out, it was the same with sales. I was like, let's just go, and I'll just go do it. And then with real coaching, of course, as we know, it's tough to get real coaching back in the days. Now you can get it. it's really powerful. And what's really cool about what you guys are talking about is evidence-based coaching. It just helps sort of, making your case and modeling after people that are really good. It's a mix of qualitative and quantitative. It makes it really powerful. And that second part, which I really love, is you don't just read a book on coaching. We don't just give them the tool. We got to keep refining that and making that better. And that is a huge breakthrough. I mean, you guys know this, it's like 5 years ago, everyone was talking about how the frontline coaches were the problem, but nobody did anything about it. It's because it was too hard. Yeah. But now now technology is enabling that, and we're making these frontline coaches, these folks really powerful for the rep. And that's a huge breakthrough. And right now it's needed more than ever, right? You got reps all over the place. We need to help them. We need to figure out what's working and what's not working. We need to bring them data. We need to bring them coaching. We need to hear what's happening while they're talking to prospects or customers, and help not just coach them, but take what we hear and help sort of continue to optimize and go. Like right now, the need for this stuff is like through the roof, right? And it's just incredible. You could talk about that for hours. I'm sure you do all the time. So I don't know if you want to. I'm not sure you want to with me, but anyway.
So let me sort of move on to another question, because we're sort of beginning to run out of time a little bit. But so what is the next normal going to look like for buyers and for sellers? And what do we need to do? We talked about coaching, but what else do we need to do to enable our sellers in this environment? And this environment meaning what we think the next normal will be.
Well, that's a big one. Well, I'll start again, and you guys can keep adding your incredible nuggets on top. So, I mean, look, I think, the new growth organization, we learned a lot in 2 months, right? It was very fast, and we learned, I think there's a whole group of organizations that accelerated digital transformation. I mean, the realization that we needed to digitally transform sales. That was something that they were talking about. It definitely came to the forefront. We see that in the CIO data, right? Just, any digital transformation stuff is accelerating forward. We need to go do that. That's really general. I think the big thing is we've learned we need to be agile and versatile in our go-to-market, in our messaging and everything. Like, we have to be prepared to be able to make changes and go to market as quickly as possible. That, by the way, that goes back to digital transformation. I think the data-driven, another word we threw around for you, but now I think the key here, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, the key is actually we're showing sales leaders real data. Like, you know what I mean? Because it didn't work before because it wasn't that great. And it was really doubtful. But now guys like you are showing them real data, and they're like, holy crap, I can use this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like everyone always used to blame them. I'd say, should we blame the sales leader for not being fully data-driven? Or is it because they couldn't find value in the data we were giving them? Let's give them a little bit more credit than that. I think now, though, we've seen the power. We have to be able to act quickly and to do the changes we need. We need a data-driven decision framework. And so, these are the kind of things that I don't know are new. I don't. I think it goes back to Howard saying it's like we're taking a step. It's exciting. Technology is going to make us a ton better. It's actually most of what we're describing wouldn't be enabled without a good technology platform. Versatility, right? Data-driven. Being able to change on the drop of these are the things. Resilience, like we want to be predictable, right? So there's predictable in the face of potential new crisis. Andy, the other day when we were talking, I was like, and then we're going to come out of this. You're like, well, whoa, man, like, we could. There's an economic crisis that might follow this, and like, I was looking at the data today. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's like how many CFOs have actually planned for a second wave of site. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and neither are you, but these are the kind of things we want to be able to go be prepared for. We need a platform that will allow us to go do that. And then the other new normal, I think we're going to take this change has been awesome. So what Howard said in the front, that's not going to, I think only goodness will come. I mean, look, for the next however many years, people are only going to buy for mission critical priorities, if you can't become a business
Hmm.
partner, the thing
Exactly.
we talked about before, that is coming with us. That won't go. That actually, this is our inspiration for change and how we deliver value. We call it extreme value. Can you deliver extreme value to the customer across, by the way, all the touches? That's coming with us. It won't
Hmm.
go. We've seen the light and we've seen the power of it. And so anyway, those are some examples of the things we're thinking about as we help people sort of mobilize, reinvent, and get ready for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months going forward.
Okay.
Yeah,
Howard.
I think to reiterate your point, it's really the buyer who's winning here.
Oh,
It's
God.
it's the buyer again who has been empowered, who has been enabled to make decisions based on data, on the content that's available to them. If you haven't moved towards providing great content for your buyer through their buyer journey, through their desires and their needs, you are missing the mark. And quite frankly, we've had to retool sales teams out there because there are generations of sales folks who hadn't made the transformation from outside to inside. And inside means that they need to be contextual. It means that they have to understand where the buyer is at, that they need to enable that buyer to make a great purchase decision. So the paradigm has shifted once again in favor of the buyer. And so it's up to us to make sure that we continue to deliver that value. The most successful SaaS companies, do you know what they know? They know that they need to deliver a great product, that they need to deliver great customer support, great customer success, and a true partnership. And that is only strengthened through this process because we need those partners now more than ever before. I don't buy a platform. I buy a group of products that solve my problems. I'm focused on my problems, and you as a seller need to solve my problems for me or I'm moving on. And I think all of that equals out to a more empowered buyer and a seller that needs to learn their craft, learn the skills, and deliver that, or they need to go away.
And deliver, really, I think both of you are talking about is delivering a buying experience
Yeah.
that's so crucial in this whole. I mean, we always talk in lip service of being given to the buying experience before, but the way things are coming out now, it truly is dependent on that for you as a seller.
Yeah, don't. I'm not worried about your outreach. I'm worried about you developing a relationship with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about you spending my time on things I don't care about. Don't just reach out to me, provide some value and do it quickly because I'm a buyer, I'm a CEO of an organization. I have very limited time. So if you're going to take my time, drive value now or else I'm moving on. And I'm not just moving on right now. I'm sticking you in my spam box. You're gone. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not buying from you ever again.
All right.
I'm
Last word.
A true story.
Yeah. Last word for Craig.
Well, I would just mention, so I sort of touched on extreme value. For us, that's been our mantra for sellers and for marketers. Like, so you brought up the entire experience, guys. Marketers, SDR, sellers, customer success folks, has been the ability to meet or over deliver, meet or exceed the buyer's expectations of value in every interaction. It can be done. And it has to be done. What Howard says is really true, which is, I wouldn't say go away because I was a little nervous when you're talking about the age of those people. I'm thinking all my contemporaries, all my friends are going to have to go away, but it's true. They might have to, right? Because they have not adjusted very well. Although I will say the ones that are making $1 million a year, they adjusted a long time, and we can learn a lot from those guys. But totally agree, right? I mean, whether we call it the buying experience or not, we have to set a bar for the value that we will deliver every time we talk to them. We were allowed so many mulligans for a while here. You are not. That's what Howard's saying. There's no mulligans. I get one shot at Howard. I get maybe 30 seconds on a first, a look, feel here, maybe 2 minutes if I get a little bit. I got to find a way to deliver value, right, in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I get the meeting, if I don't, all these things, you can start to see the string here. I think it was lip service for a long time, guys. I mean, I really do. I think we just talked about it. And, but now you have to. And the one thing I will leave everyone with is in sales, the thing when you want to sell the biggest deal possible, you want to identify changes, big changes happening in an organization, and you want to be partners for that solution. So in a way, right now, what's happening is it's tough for a lot of people, but they are taking on massive change with extraordinary pain. For a good salesperson, actually, it's a good time. Yeah. Because, that's what they look for.
Mm-hmm.
They want that, they want to understand it. They want to deliver value against it. So that's my parting words for you on that one.
Parting words from me, we've all been primed. We've all been touched by Amazon Prime. We have huge expectations to get what we want, when we want it, delivered right away. That should be every sales rep's mantra. That should be every customer success support person's mantra. And that should be a CEO's mantra. Deliver that value right away.
All right. Well, go ahead,
Great
Craig.
talking to you guys.
Craig, you have something else to add before we head off?
Repeating back, I love that headline. We've all been primed.
I love it. All right, Craig Rosenberg, Howard Brown, thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.